You don't realize how useful a transfer pump is until you get one, and then you put it to use around the homestead. Last year I reviewed the Harbor Freight transfer pump, and it was a modest sized pump, and it did a good job of moving the water from my rain barrel system to the garden when I wanted to water the plants. And there are other applications that you can find for moving non-corrosive fluids from one area to another by use of the pump. I was contacted though by Vevor, who asked me to take a look at their transfer pump. It's a much more robust pump than the Harbor Freight one. So I told them I'd be happy to take a look at it and put it through its paces and then give an honest review of what I thought of the pump and its features. So it came in the mail. Let's go open it up and see what it can do. Manual. This looks like a pretty substantial pump. It's got a couple of fittings here, so maybe we will look at the instructions. So this Vevor pump is the garden jet pump. It's the XKJ805S1 model. It's a non-submersible pump, 115 volts, 7 amps, 800 watts. It's got the inlet on the front, which they have a cap on. This is the outlet up here. What I like about this, right up here, this is the primer. You take this off, you fill this with clean water, then the pump is ready to go. When you hook it up, it'll suck the water out, no problem, because this is already filled with water. In my Harbor Freight pump review, I kept having the problem of trying to prime the pump because it's difficult to get the water into the pump at the same time you're trying to pump the water, and it got to move fast of, like pouring water into the here, attaching the hose, turning it on. And this, it's got obviously has a reservoir in it that you can use to fill the pump, and you don't have to have all that problem. So that's a nice feature. It's got a sealed on-off switch. Now they say don't be getting it wet, but the fact that they still include a sealed switch is good. The motor back here, I mean, this is a pretty hefty motor, and they just recommend getting a small screwdriver, putting it in there, and making sure the fan blades are turning easily. So I have a pond that I want to get started for the spring, and I'm going to use this pump to empty the pond. Now I've cleaned out a lot of the leaves that blew into it, and hopefully it'll all the muck on the bottom won't damage the pump. Now, looking at the specs on the pump, it shows that it says the maximum has 40 meters, so that's pretty high, and the flow is 3.7 cubic meters per hour. How many gallons is that? I don't know. I'll figure it out and I'll put it on the screen. And it also says the maximum suction depth is 7 meters. So that's a pretty substantial depth it can go down to. I think this is gonna have no problem cleaning out that pump. Also, I can hook this up to my rain barrel system and use it to water my garden. So the fittings that come with it reduce the inlet and the outlet to a 3/4 inch size, and that way you can attach a regular garden hose to it. You want to make sure that these things are going to be tightened down pretty good. You don't need Teflon tape or anything like that, but you want to tighten them down good so that there's no air leakage, because that could have an effect on performance if there's air leaking in around these sides. On the front here, you got a drain valve, so you can unscrew this and let the water drain out for winterizing the pump for storage. That way it won't freeze inside the pump. Another thoughtful addition on this. So you fill it from here, you empty it from here, but otherwise the water can stay in there until it's time to winterize the pump. So let's get this thing hooked up and let's put it through its paces on the pond.
All right, I've got the hoses hooked up, the inlet and outlet, and now I'm just going to open up this top. There we go. So this is the nut that goes on there. It's got a little rubber washer, so you don't want to lose that. And now I've got a little watering can that I'll use to fill this up. And it's got to be filled, otherwise you won't get the pressure. A lot of freaking water. This might take longer than anything else.
Many hours later.
I think it might be full now. Alright, so we'll screw this back in and then we'll fire her up. So on one end of the hose, the one that's going into the pond, I got a mesh onion bag. Try to keep some of the biggest debris that's in there out of the pump. And then the other piece is just right over there, and it'll shoot out that way. Don't know if this will work, but it can't hurt. So I've got a brick holding it, the hose into the pond, and I'll keep an eye on it. And we'll turn it on and let's see what happens. Oh, pretty strong stream coming out. That's nice. And the water is going down pretty fast. It's going to adjust the hose to get it into a better position. And we'll turn it back on. And it didn't restart. Let me see if it needs to be primed again, because there's no water coming out. So from the looks of it, it looks like it needs to be reprimed. I would have thought that having sucked up the water and then turned it off, it would still hold the water in the reservoir. But there was nothing coming out of the end hose. So I'm guessing that it needs to be reprimed. So it wasn't completely drained. Half to 3/4 though, it was down. I'm gonna test it again. I'm gonna run the pump, turn it off, and see if we have the same issue, because that could be an annoyance. So let's give it a go. So it's flowing once again. And now I'm going to turn it off. Now none of the hoses have been moved. It's just turned off. So I'm going to turn it back on. Okay, I'm not sure what that issue was before then. Maybe I created an air pocket, putting it in to the when I was moving the hose around, so maybe that was my fault. But the pressure is pretty darn strong. And it's really sucking that water out. And I think might have gotten a little bit of air there. Or that netting is clogged.
So maybe it is that the sucked up debris in there. So I'm gonna clean it all out and try it again. So you definitely don't want to be taking these screws in and out by hand. I was doing it yesterday with an Allen wrench and it was just taking forever. So I ordered these hex head driver bits on Amazon and they shipped in one day. And it makes so much faster work of this whole thing. Be careful with when you're putting it back together is the rubber grommet. There's no channel for the rubber grommet, the seal, to sit in around the head. So you actually have to kind of hold it in place until you fit the top on. Fortunately, there's no way of knowing whether or not that rubber grommet or that rubber seal is actually sitting properly in there. So we're going to hook this up again one more time and see if we can get it to work. So I've stopped trying to do the upper portion of the pond here. There's just too many leaves in there. I really have to clean it out. I had cleaned it out pretty much from the lower pond, so it worked a lot better. Up here, the leaves were getting stuck on the bag and reducing the suction that I was getting on that end of the hose, so the water wasn't coming out too strong. But that means I would have to reprime the pump, and it's just going to be too much of a pain in the neck. So I'm going to clean out the leaves from the upper pump and then work on getting it fixed that way. So I can't blame the pump itself for that, though the having to reprime it every time is an annoyance, and with that small charge port, a pain in the neck. But otherwise, I mean, the pump is awesome. I mean, it's strong. It puts out a great stream, and I plan on using this really for my rainwater collection system, so that when I water my garden, there shouldn't be any issues at all, because it's just going to hook up directly to the barrels. I have 5 75-gallon barrels, and that should be plenty of water for it to suck out and drive to the garden from the end of the hose. So it's a quality pump, there's no doubt about that. Much bigger, much stronger, and better than the Harbor Freight pump I had reviewed previously. And if you want to see that video, there'll be a link right up there. So on the whole, it's I'd give this Siskel and Ebert would give this 2 thumbs up. Other than those minor, what I'll call design flaws, not really sure if they are, but design flaws on the having to recharge the pump all the time and such a small charge port. Otherwise, I think it's a pretty decent product. Okay, with all that, what do I think of the Vevor pump? Well, as I said at the outset, this is a really robust pump. It's heavy duty. It can stand up to abuse. With that said, I do think there are some design considerations. That small input port I'm not happy with, so I ended up just using the outflow port for the to fill the priming tank. I would like to see it come with some sort of filter that you could throw at the bottom of the pond to suck out the water. Still would need to have some sort of filter mechanism to prevent the gunk from flowing through. And I don't like the way the O-ring sits on the housing, because it pops up too many times. With that said, that's nitpicking really. It's a strong pump. It's got good pressure. Certainly with the rainwater catchment system, when it's got a constant flow of water right there at the head, it's going to give you good power, and it's going to come in real handy to water my garden with this year. So overall, the Vevor pump, much better than the Harbor Freight one, and for relatively only a few dollars more than what the Harbor Freight one goes for. So it's definitely a good value for the money that you're getting with it, and what looks to be a quality tool to use and have around the homestead that you're going to find a ton of applications for beyond just watering your garden or cleaning out your pond. So Siskel and Ebert would give it 2 thumbs up. Few modifications I'd like to see made on it, but otherwise a good product for the money. So if you'd like to see my last product review, check out this video right here, and then subscribe and hit that notification bell, and that way you'll be able to keep up to date on all the doings around the homestead here. Okay, thanks for watching.